Hey man, so some footage has come out of the whole fucking Freddie Gibbs Jim Jones situation. Before we get into all that shit, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and let's run this shit the fuck up. Alright, let's go. So the beef with fucking Jim Jones and Freddie Gibbs has come to a breaking point. It all kind of started like several years ago, if not, I think like 9 years ago or some shit like that. Basically, fucking Freddie Gibbs called out Jim Jones for throwing up the BL sign for like, which is the Viceroy gang like hand sign, but Jim Jones, I guess at the time, he wasn't even trying to do that. He was shouting out his clothing brand Vampire Life. So that was the whole thing that he was doing, but Freddie Gibbs called him out on that and called him a fake gangster. I think he also said some shit about the 6ix9ine situation and said he was an informant along the lines of that. Even though Freddie Gibbs is basically a police officer, not really, but like he's related to a police officer, being his dad, and apparently his brother's a DA or some shit in Gary, Indiana or something like that. But I don't know, he has more ties with law enforcement than Jim Jones did. So the beef basically came to a breaking point where fucking Jim Jones and Freddie Gibbs were at Prime 112 in Miami, Florida, and their crews basically bumped into each other. Jim Jones, he essentially went up to Freddie Gibbs' face and was like talking to him, and while he was doing that, his homie fucking snuck Freddie Gibbs, fucking punched him in the face, and then I guess they got stomped out and shit. Apparently they got the best of them, according to like different reports. I saw DJ Vlad said something, Hip Hop XXO said some shit. Like, it was a whole bunch of different people saying something about it. And it definitely, I mean, like, if witnesses, I saw a couple witnesses basically say that there was like a whole fucking situation and Freddie Gibbs got fucking beat the fuck up and shit like that. So I mean, we could go based off the footage too. I mean, like, you kind of just hear a commotion and it's kind of crazy with the shits, but it's interesting to see, like, people are definitely like seeing this and filming this, so it's just a matter of time that more clear footage comes out and basically shows what happens. But Freddie Gibbs hasn't said anything publicly and hasn't really gone into detail about the incident, and neither of them really have, because that would be like some snitch shit to actually say that some shit happened. I know if Jim Jones were to say that they beat the fuck out of this nigga, I mean, I don't know if Freddie Gibbs would file charges on these niggas. I mean, that would kind of ruin his credibility as a rapper and shit. I feel like the fans wouldn't look at it as him being a normal civilian and shit. They'd be looking at it as he's like a gangster rapper and he got beat up, which happens. You can't win them all, you know. But I don't know, man. It's definitely like an interesting situation, but you can't say that. Like, I be thinking about this type of shit that happens. You know, niggas like academics gonna have a field day about this shit, but it's like I be thinking about like how these rappers and shit be moving like so carefree, even though they be dissing damn near everyone on the goddamn internet. And I feel like they be underestimating people, or maybe they just don't care. I feel like part of it is they just don't care and shit, but like, it's just interesting to see how people be moving so freely, man, because it's like, this nigga was moving, I guess he just had a bodyguard, but his bodyguard got stomped out too, man. According to reports, his bodyguard got stomped out, so it's like, obviously he wasn't moving deep as fuck. But maybe Jim Jones actually lives in Miami or something over the winter because it gets cold in New York. I know a lot of people do that shit, like from the Northeast, they be living in New York in the summer and shit, and then in the winter they move to Miami and shit, and they have like apartments down there. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case and he had actual homies down there with him. And I'm guessing Freddie Gibbs was probably just visiting and shit, and then fucking ended up being there by himself or just with his bodyguard, maybe a couple people. But if his bodyguard is getting stomped out, that's the nigga that's supposed to be fucking like goddamn doing something. And in Freddie Gibbs' style, I feel like Freddie Gibbs, he's the type of nigga that will fucking talk on Twitter, but it's like, I don't know, this nigga, I maybe he just didn't have time to fucking go on the internet or something, but he should probably say some open statement about it or talk about it or some shit, because it just looks bad if all these news channels are like bashing you and shit, at least like if you got your ass beat, I doubt there's no way that this nigga got his ass beat that bad in Prime 112 that he can't go on the internet and say some shit. I mean, like, granted his Instagram is deleted or some shit, but if he got beaten to a vegetable or some shit, then I would understand. But just not saying something that's kind of fried, at least make a joke out of it, because this nigga be funny and shit too. Like, fucking joke about it or something, like fucking like just admit that you took the L. I feel like people wouldn't really care that much, like, because I feel like maybe the fans would say some shit like you got beat up or some shit, but it's like, it's not really the end of your career if you lose a fight. And if there's no full length footage that ever comes out of it, it will just be like one of those urban lore fucking ass situations that happen where we think that someone got fucking beat up or some shit, but we really can't even tell. Like, it could end up like that type of situation if there's no real clear footage that comes out. But if some more damning shit does come out, then I guess it will turn out bad. But it's like, I really feel like, do y'all think that the rap community really even gives a fuck like that? Like, his fans are gonna try to make excuses for that shit, like say he got snuck or some shit, even though it's not really getting snuck. When it's like, when niggas are coming with that type of pressure and hating on other people for that type of shit, like, I don't really think there's such thing as snuck, because it's like, when it's on site, like, how are you gonna say it's snuck? You're knowingly saying this shit and you know that it's gonna be on site, so it's like, you can't be pretending like you don't fucking know. Like, you just gotta always think that it's on site, especially if you're dissing people. I feel like if it was some shit where he wasn't dissing and it was like they just had bumped into each other and they didn't have previous problems, then I feel like it might have been a cheap shot. But it's like, if y'all have previous problems, like, what are you fucking talking for, man? There's fucking you know, there's no talking, there's nothing that needs to be said. But hey, real stay safe shit. Let me know in the comments what the fuck you think really happened. Let me know if you think that it even matters if this nigga fucking got fucking beat up or not. But hey, real stay safe shit. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and check out the motherfucking merch. Peace.